So where? This is probably the first thing you're asking yourself. Where do I want to live? As you can see here, we've highlighted some of the key areas that are closest to McGill. And I'm going to start out with the McGill Ghetto, which is probably the first place you're considering when looking for a place to live. There's a lot of pros. It's close to campus, it's convenient, and it's really popular among other McGill students. So there's a lot of partying and socializing, which I know is key. But there's also some things that you should really be aware of. For example, in this area, a lot of the buildings are really old and run down and are not well insulated, which means that you'll probably be cold in the winter, which is not fun. And landlords in this area are known to be pretty horrible and to have abusive policies and like take advantage of students. So you have to be really careful with that as well. It's also notorious for break-ins. So safety is not the greatest in this area. And I really just encourage you guys to try to get out of the McGill bubble. I know it's easy to just be like, okay, McGill Ghetto, let's go, because that's where maybe your friends are going to want to live. But there's so many great neighborhoods that you can probably find better places in. So I really recommend that you look elsewhere, maybe. Oh, also, it's really loud all the time. So that's annoying. So let's talk about the Golden Square Mile and downtown, which I personally think is the most ideal neighborhood. It's up and coming. It's close to literally everything. It's like super central in the city. You're close to all the metros, well, a bunch of metro stops, bus stops, grocery stores, nightlife, gyms, food, like everything. The apartments here are going to be way nicer. You're going to get a lot more value for what you're paying for. And in terms of security, it's just a lot higher in this area. So I really recommend that. It's definitely not as loud as in the ghetto since businesses close in the evening, but it is downtown. So, I mean, you're still going to be around a lot of people, but in general, not a lot of students look at this area, which I think is a mistake. So I really recommend checking it out here because I think you can find some really great spots. It's also close to campus. As you can see on the map, it's like a short walk away. So not much further than the ghetto, which I think is good. Then we have the Plateau and the Mile End. So as you can see on the map, they're a bit further from campus, but these are really, really charming neighborhoods that paint like a perfect picture of the artsier side of Montreal. And there's really great options for food, cafes, thrift stores, all that fun stuff. And apartments here are also kind of expensive. They have more charm to them. The architecture is really cool. But they're less expensive than in the ghetto, but they're still pretty pricey. So definitely take that into account. And this area is also kind of notorious for break-ins. So safety can kind of be an issue here as well. In terms of landlords, kind of a hit and miss. Some of them are really, really horrible and some of them are good. So you have to be careful when you're looking for a place here, for sure. I personally live in the Mile End and I love it, but it did take a while to find like a good spot. So take that into account. Okay, when? So when do leases typically start? Anywhere from May 1st to September 1st. Either way, you should be looking like right now, not to freak you out, but you should probably start if you haven't. Peak leasing season starts right after the holidays. So if you start your apartment hunt around the same time, then you can get your pick from like all the apartments in the city rather than having to get stuck with a place that you don't actually like very much because you waited too long. So I really think you guys should start ASAP if you haven't already. You'll thank yourself, trust me. So when it comes to roommates. Okay, so first of all, do you want to live by yourself or with a roommate? I think for your first apartment, having roommates is really key. It can make the whole experience just a lot less stressful and overwhelming. And it's important to find people whose living styles are compatible with yours and who you're able to communicate with openly and who are looking for the same thing that you are. So how can you meet your future roommates? We actually have an article on top 10 places to meet your future roommates. So you can check that out for more tips. But I think for probably the easiest way is through res. You're all in the same boat, so you're probably going to find people who are down to move out together. You can also, I know it's probably hard since everything's online, but through classes and stuff, if you meet someone, that could be a good option. And I really recommend checking out Facebook groups for student housing and roommate finding. Those are also like a really great place to find people to live with. Everyone there is looking for the same thing.
More, I'm just going to interrupt you. We have a question from the chat. They ask, can I look for apartments for next fall semester right now?
Oh, yes, you can. I recommend starting ASAP. It might seem like it's really far away, but places go like really quickly. So I really recommend starting now, even if it's just for September. You'll be able to find places that are available only in September now. So yeah, you should start now. Not to freak you out, but you should do it. Thank you, Tara. Okay. So how do you know if you're compatible to live together? There's definitely some key questions you want to ask. The main one is probably, what's your budget, including rent, utilities, all that kind of stuff. What areas would you want to live in? How important is cleanliness and tidiness to you? Things like that are important to know before you want to move in with someone. And how do I figure out what I want in an apartment? So it's important to think about whether you want to move into a furnished or unfurnished place. I think you guys should probably go for furnished places. If you're going to move into a place that's not furnished, that means that you're responsible for buying everything. The cost of furniture is very expensive, especially if, like, think of everything you're going to need. You know, it's a lot of stuff. And it's not just expensive, it's also really stressful. And you're also responsible for actually moving it in and out of that place, which can also just add extra stress and money. Also, in terms of sustainability, a furnished place is going to be just better for that as well. I know, well, you guys are going to see in May, in the ghetto, there's just like tons of furniture and trash on the streets because people just get rid of their stuff instead of trying to sell it because they're in exams and they're stressed. And you don't want that. That's not good. So from moving into a furnished apartment just saves the planet, saves your wallets, and saves your mental health. You know, you don't want to deal with that stress. It's not fun. And it's also impossible to sublet your apartment in the summer if it's furnished. I mean, if it's not furnished, sorry. If it's furnished, that means everything's there and you can just sublet it in the summer, and that's easy peasy.